Hi, I'm Senior Manager of McCain Global Leadership Initiatives at the McCain Institute, Scott Nemeth, and you're listening to the Global Leaders Podcast, where we connect you, the listener, with the McCain Institute's diverse network of experts and rising leaders from around the world. We will explore Senator McCain's legacy of character-driven leadership, how our network is in the arena tackling some of the world's most complex challenges, and discuss our guests' own leadership journeys. On this episode, we are joined by Za, an alumni of McCain Institute Global Leadership Programs. Za is from Myanmar and has been serving at the front lines of activism and humanitarian efforts since the military coup earlier this year. Throughout his life, Za has demonstrated a true sense of serving a cause greater than oneself by serving as a humanitarian aid worker, working with Myanmar refugees, and working in Malaysia to rehabilitate drug users. He has also worked in journalism with BBC Media Action to support peace and social inclusion through a nationally broadcast radio drama, The Teacup Diaries. He was also a member of the 2020 McCain Institute Next Generation Leaders, where he worked in the office of the mayor of Los Angeles. Za, thank you so much and welcome to the Global Leaders Podcast. Let's begin with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your leadership journey with the McCain Institute as an alumni of our leadership programming.
First of all, thank you very much for having me here. And it's always a pleasure talking with people from the McCain Institute. And long before I knew about the McCain Institute, I realized that late Senator John McCain and his family has been very supportive of our struggle for democracy and human rights in my country, Myanmar. As a next generation leader of McCain Institute, I have trained and empowered and fostered a diverse group of tomorrow leaders through virtual character-driven leadership training because of the COVID, but that is fully embraced the democracy values and human rights. And there I have trained over hundreds of student leaders and business leaders so far once I came back from the United States and to my country, Myanmar. Also now I'm leading a program, what I call Through the Eyes of Agony Art program for the internally displaced children due to armed conflicts in these mountainous areas. I always believe that youth and leadership play a key role in any society, organization, or community. So as an alumni, my primary focus is about youth and leadership.
There is a significant and growing humanitarian crisis in Myanmar that has been developing over the last year following a military coup. We have seen many people lose their lives, instability in basic services and public goods, as well as a shift from a developing democracy to hardline authoritarianism. You have been on the front lines of this crisis in regard to your activism and humanitarianism. Can you tell us how, as a leader, you are responding to this crisis?
I think, as you just mentioned, that the military dictatorship, they have turned our nation into slaughterhouse. And for us, at the military coup state came as a very rude shock to the entire nation. I think on the very first February 1st, US President Joe Biden had said it clearly that it is indeed a direct assault on our nation's transition to democracy and the rule of law. And now Myanmar is facing a quadruple tragedy: COVID, coup, economic deterioration, and natural disaster. So since February first coup, I've been on the street both day and night because at some day we are not allowed to protest in the daytime. So we protest at night as well. But when you protest, there is a big price for us to pay. I still vividly remember one night when the so-called security forces came to our apartment, and then they just shoot one of our comrades. He just 19 years old. We were just helpless. We were just hopeless. And I personally felt that the war has stopped, that there's nothing who can understand us. And I'd really seen that because when I was in the United States, I see the democracy in action, right? I mean, people protest about environmental and climate change and the Black Lives Matters like that. But in my country, if you say just I want democracy, and then you have to pay a huge price, a bloody price. So that's what I have seen. So because of that, and a lot of people have to run, and especially for the people who join the civil disobedience movement, right from the very beginning, the CDM movement is very strong, and they become a pivotal force in order to paralyze the military regime. So a lot of medical professionals, and some has been arrested, and some has been on the run. So now a lot of people I see here in this mountainous area, I see a lot of members of the CDM. And at the same time, I see thousands of children who are starving and who has no food to eat. And at that time, I felt, again, hopeless. And I don't know how to describe it, but as a Christian, I read, Psalm 23, where the Israeli king David said, I feel like I was walking through the shadow of death because there's nothing that I can ask for. But because of those peoples as well, because of those starving children, I see a light, a hope, because they don't know where to complain. So now I'm starting a program called Through the Eyes of Agony Art Project, where they can express their anger, where they can express their hope, where they can express their frustration, and at the same time, where they can express their dream through their expression in the artist. So I work along with famous artists who are on the runs as well. On the other hand, we feel really hopeless and senseless, and we feel like there's no meaning at all. But on the other hand, because of this situation, it gave me a strong sense of faith and hope. And hope is not just a philosophy thing to talk about, but hope becomes our daily bread and butter for us. And last but not least, with regard to COVID and the public health, I'm now serving as a board member for our group called Myanmar Community Health Society, where we provide a lot of variety of healthcare services such as oxygen supply, for elderly care, and health consultation and patient visits as well. So I think McCain Institute always say that start where you are, use what you can, and do what you can, use what you have. And that's exactly what I'm doing and has been doing and will be doing.
As the crisis has developed and you've had to shift the focus of your career in response, how has the leadership of Senator McCain or the leadership skills you've learned as a next generation leader helped you in dealing with the crisis?
I just wanted to highlight three important things. Of course, I learned tremendous things. First of all, I always believe that accepted by the McCain Institute to learn about the counter-dribble leadership in the United States is a divine appointment, I would probably say, because I feel like they know exactly what I will be going through. For instance, when I arrived, coming to the United States was my very first time experiences. And I always believe that United States, and I always seen United States as a champion of democracy and human rights. And our architecture of this next generation leader of the McCain Institute, General Franklin and Ambassador Boyd, always mentioned that what kind of environment that we will be going as individual leader. They always said that VUCA, violent, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. That's exactly me and my people are facing. So because they have really, really molded me and shaped me and equipped me with the truth that I will be leading in this kind of environment first. Second is that my visit to the United States, right? I think everybody knows that the 9/11 event. And when I met personally and I learned from the Commissioner Fire Department Commissioner Tom Van Essen, and he said, during this, because he said nobody prepared for that kind of tragedy. When it happened, he said that this 9/11 was one of his most heartbreaking and toughest days of his life. And he told us that he went to the funeral service of his colleague who passed on 9/11, grieving and weeping and comforting their family members, a really hard yet strong gesture to act on, right? At first, he had to go to a funeral service and the daytime, and then he really have to walk on and he has to do the saving lives services. So he really have to put his emotion and everything behind, and then he has to do what he believes is the right thing to do. I think that's exactly what I've been doing, right? I have seen with my own eyes, my comrade has been shot, and many of my friends has been arrested, some are in prison. So there is I can shout the whole day and burst my anger. But I think I learned from Commissioner Tom Vun that I have to put everything left behind and then I have to move forward because there are many things I need to do as well. I think that's exactly what John McCain has portrayed, right? During his as a prisoner of war, he really endured all those suffering along with the comrade. I think that's exactly what I'm doing. If we didn't have people like John McCain, I think we would choose an easy path. Right? We would choose not a character-driven leadership journey, but we would choose a popular thing or easy thing. So I think those three particular events that really impact me, and that's the thing that moved me to go forward.
The crisis in Myanmar is unfortunately not the only challenge that we are seeing around the world. We just saw the collapse of a democratically elected government in Afghanistan. There's a growing rise of extremism and disinformation around the world that threatens stability. And here in the US, we face a growing migration crisis, as well as that extremism and disinformation crisis. Why is character-driven leadership so important at this time? And how can it help to combat these growing challenges?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I think a lot of countries has benefited from US strong leadership. I think the current Singapore Prime Minister has mentioned that Singapore has prospered because of the strong presence of the United States as well. So why United States was so strong in leadership and why United States was very unique among the other Western countries? I think one professor, he concluded by saying that a lot of the Western countries were based on reason alone, reason and alignment alone. But I think in the Independent Declaration of the United States, it mentioned that all men are created equal because United States were unique because it was based on moral reason, not just reason alone, but because it was based on moral reason. I think when the United States was very strong, when they take up that moral responsibility and when they stood up to the causes they are greater than self, I think many people benefit from that. And that's exactly what John McCain has manifested his life as well. So character-driven leadership is all about taking moral courage and then to do the right thing. So I absolutely agree with the McCain Institute definition of character leadership. He said it mentioned that leadership is best defined by character, right? It's about commitment to serving a cause that's greater than self. At the same time, it's about commitment to serve those who need it most. So I think now I'm in this jungle, but at the same time, I'm now serving the little one, right? Those people who don't know what to express as well. So that's exactly what the character-driven leadership means. I really believe that if the world leaders take a little bit of moral courage and take a little bit of things to do the right thing and for the right reason, I really think that our world would have hope. Right. And then I would say the last thing would be it's character-driven leadership is all about the commitment to serving others, even when it is difficult. So I think because of the COVID, because of the Afghanistan, it is difficult. But as a leader, we must make difficult decisions in order to serve others. So that's why character leadership is very much needed, and character leadership will always be needed.
Za, as you reflect back on your time working with the McCain Institute, is there a particular moment or legacy from the life of Senator McCain that sticks with you and helps guide you still today? I've been thinking about this question as well because John McCain is such a huge role. I think he was in the military service. He was a senator. He was a father. So how can I describe with this giant man, right? But if I have to, and I would say one word, his life is all about service. Right. I think when he was captured as a prisoner of war, his father never ask a favor to the president because the McCain family legacy is all about service. It's all about putting country first. It's about causes they are greater than other people, greater than their family or greater than their self-interest. So it's about service. He served his country. But one day when I was listening to him and on a talk show, McCain was asked this question. Okay, Senator John McCain, how you would like to remember people? How people, would like you to remember? He said that McCain served his country. He said at the end would break it honorably.
And then the host says, yes, you did you did honorably. So sometimes it's not just about serving, it's about serve his country honorably as well. I think the former State Secretary Henry Kissinger has mentioned it, right? During my trips to New York, on the last day of our training in New York, I was very excited. I was very nervous. I was overwhelmed just to see Henry Kissinger, Dr. Henry Kissinger. And then he was given a chance to talk. And then he said he always remembered that he thought that McCain would came back to the United States with a special plane like that. But at the end, when he came back to the United States, when they met in the White House, and John McCain came to the Henry Kissinger, he said that, "Thank you for saving my honor." And then Henry Kissinger, everywhere he go, he talked about this one. He remember, "Thank you for saving my honor." That what he always remember. He always resonate with that. So as a person, as a next generation leaders, as John McCain's global leaders or next generation leader, I really would like to serve my people, my country, my community, like John McCain, honorably. I would like to work at honorably as well. I think this is very important because, as you mentioned, in this kind of rise of popularism, celebrity, or selfie ache, I think it's very important for us to serve our people, our nation, our family honorably, and that's what I'm always trying to do.
For our final question, what advice do you have to young individuals who aspire to be leaders in their country, and how can they make a difference?
One thing that I learned very interestingly and very important lesson from this Myanmar current revolution is that Myanmar current revolution was led by Generation Z, Gen Z, who are very young, who was very active, and who was very passionate and very innovative. So it's really changed my perspective on young people, that young people, all the individual generation leader, they all can be a leader, and they are a leader in their own ways. So, but what happened is that, it has been over 240 days after the coup. So what I learned is that, yes, young people are very innovative, young people are very active, young people are very passionate about in all they do, but sometimes they need a direction. Sometimes they need somebody they can look up to. I think that's where the role of legacy of McCain came in, because McCain has shown that, okay, this is what the leadership is all about. If you are youth, if you're passionate about, if you're interested in to be a leader, leading your nation, this is what the leadership look like. Because leadership all about serving, leadership all about influencing other people, leadership is about making tough decisions. But leadership is not about, in this right of social media, leadership is not about making followers. Leadership is not about promoting yourself. Leadership is about producing others, character-driven leaders as well. I think that's exactly what McCain Institute is doing. They are shaping us. Not only that, they are shaping the entire world with the legacy of McCain. And I will be always grateful to the McCain Institute. And it's, I believe that all the youth leaders, we all are leaders, and we can make a difference. And once again, when I was in the United States, learning about culture-driven leadership, well, our fathers, right? I mean, not a real, General Franklin and Ambassador always say that, so start where you are, do what you can, and use what you have. And yes. And if you want to be a leader, if you are young people, you are a leader, you can make a difference. Start where you are, do what you can, use what you have. And that's exactly I'm doing and always will be doing.
Za, on behalf of the McCain Institute and our listeners, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us on the Global Leaders Podcast. The work you are doing in Myanmar is vitally important, and we are so grateful for all that you are doing to promote democratic values through a character-driven leadership approach. You are truly in the arena working for the good of your country. Thanks for listening. For more information on the McCain Global Leaders Program or this podcast, please visit mccaininstitute.org. Please also rate, review, and subscribe, and be sure to follow the McCain Institute on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to stay up to date with everything happening in the world of character-driven leadership.